will be introducing our keynote speaker. I'm really even more excited about what he has to speak about. Our keynote speaker is Dr. Aaron Cook. He's an inclusive educator, systems leader, and an advocate for the power of public education. For the past 2 decades, he has served nearly every role across the education pipeline: paraprofessional, special education teacher, a county office coordinator and administrator, a school board member, researcher, grant writer, and university professor. He currently coordinates the Classified Employee Credential Program at the Glenn County Office of Education, a statewide initiative that supports classified school employees on their journey to becoming credentialed teachers. He also helps lead the California's multi-tiered system of support and community schools partnership program initiatives, where his work focuses on braiding equity, inclusion, wellness, and continuous improvement across rural school systems. He loves collaborating with educators across the state, especially throughout Northern California, and advocating for the unique strengths, challenges, and opportunities of rural education. He's a Bill and Melinda Gates Fellow and Fulbright PhD graduate from the University of Central Florida. He has delivered a lot of addresses, including this one of ours today. His research has been published in a lot of journals. His leadership has contributed to millions of dollars in educational investments, including over 17 million in CCSP funds, workforce initiatives like creating opportunities for youth apprenticeship, and teacher pathways such as CSP within California State University. He has a decade of experience teaching in higher education. He's worked with a diverse range of learners, including Fulbright scholars and international educators through the Fulbright Teaching Excellence and Achievement Program. He is a beloved student-centered instructor known for creating inclusive learning environments where every individual feels seen, supported, and inspired to lead, the reason why we are here today. He's especially passionate about championing an ability-first mindset. We celebrate the strengths and potential of individuals with disabilities and advocating for culturally and linguistically diverse learners, particularly Spanish-speaking and Mexican families. For him, this commitment is deeply personal and grounded in his lived experience in North California, his work within public education systems, and his family life. He also collaborates on cutting-edge artificial intelligence and virtual reality projects focused on innovation in education. As a local rural advocate and former special education administrator, he's known for building systems where every learner belongs and thrives. He has led through challenging times, including serving as a school board member during COVID-19 pandemic and helping guide his district through leadership transitions marked by community division and eventual renewal. He teaches credential candidates preparing to serve students with extensive support needs. His classroom and leadership philosophy centers on listening deeply, leading collaboratively, and helping others be the intervention, one relationship at a time. Beyond work and all these academics, he's a proud dad who helps coach his kids' little league teams. He loves traveling, camping, reading, listening to music, eating his wife's homemade salsa, and spending time in the garden with his children and their golden retriever. Ladies and gentlemen, what an honor to have our keynote speaker, Dr. Aaron, live with us today to speak about the rhythm of global inclusion. A warm welcome from all over the world, Dr. Aaron. The floor is yours.
Tom, thank you so much. I'm glowing, I'm beaming, and I'm so pumped to be with you all today. What an inspiring video. The words of Sonia and Jeremy. My gosh, I'm so excited to be with you all this morning, this afternoon, this evening, wherever you are. So thank you. Thank you everyone at Rotary World Disability Advocacy. It's truly an honor to be here today among fellow educators, parents, advocates, and dreamers. We're all dreamers from all around the world, all united by a single purpose: global inclusion for all. We come from different nations today, from different time zones and traditions, but we share one rhythm, my friends. We share the belief that everyone belongs and every family matters and every community can learn to listen. Sonia was talking about active listening. That's exactly what we're talking about. And today I want to talk to you more about that rhythm of listening through story, through sound, and through humanity itself. So let's start today in deep space. I was actually out walking this morning. It's 5:30 in the morning Pacific time, and I was walking in the orchard with my golden retriever, looking up at the stars. It was quite dark, but the stars were twinkling, and I was thinking of you all and how we truly are included on this planet together. And I want to tell you a quick story about what this planet and deep space means. Let's go back to the 1990s. It was February 14th, 1990, and the United States NASA, or National Aeronautics and Space Administration, had launched their Voyager 1 spacecraft. It was about 3.7 billion miles from Earth, sailing past Neptune on the outer edge of our solar system. It had been traveling for 13 years, carrying with it something extraordinary, a golden record of Earth's languages, music, and greetings, a message in a bottle to whatever or whoever might one day find it. And at the urging of a planetary scientist named Carl Sagan, NASA did something unusual. They turned Voyager around to look back at home one last time, and they turned on their cameras. And Voyager began capturing what became the first ever family portrait of our solar system. A stunning mosaic of 60 images that included Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Venus, and of course, our Mother Earth. And now here's where it gets really profound. Do you see it? Look closely. Do you see it? Let me help you. That's us. In this image labeled Earth, our home shows up as a single pixel, a tiny, pale blue dot floating in a shaft of scattered sunlight. That's it, a speck in the vastness of space. The Voyager team knew the photo wouldn't show much, and that's precisely why they took it. They wanted us to see it, to feel it, to remember how fragile our planet is and how connected we all are, and how small we may seem in the grand arc of time and space, but how deeply precious. The images took nearly 3 months to finally reach back home here to Earth, and just 34 minutes after snapping that last photo of home, Voyager powered off its cameras forever to conserve energy for the journey ahead. And yes, Voyager is still up there, still flying, still listening, and attached to that same spacecraft is that golden record, carrying the sounds, music, and greetings of Earth, a heartbeat, a Native American Navajo chant, singer Chuck Berry's rhythmic song, Johnny Be Good, a mother kissing her child. And it's been playing the story of humanity for nearly 50 years out there in the dark, a love letter to the stars. And this image, the pale blue dot, has hung on the wall at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory ever since. And over the years, they've had to replace it again and again because so many people reach out to touch it. And why? Because there's something in us that recognizes the truth in that image, that we're small, but not insignificant, that we're floating together, my friends, in a single fragile world suspended in sunlight. Carl Sagan wrote, "Look again at that dot. That's here, that's home, that's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of. Every human being who ever was lived out their lives. Every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. There's perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another, and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known. And somewhere on that pale blue dot right now, a teacher in Kathmandu is helping a child read Braille. A mentor in Rio is teaching sign language through dance, and a principal in Nairobi is installing the first wheelchair ramp their school has ever had. That is our shared rhythm, the rhythm of inclusion. But my friends, we know there are all sorts of barriers in this fight for global inclusion. We face them every day, don't we? Oh my goodness. Physical, environmental barriers, systemic and institutional barriers, attitudinal, cultural barriers, communication and informational, economic and resource barriers, and of course, psychological and social barriers. What's ironic is that even something meant to be helpful can create a barrier. Even our symbols, the icons of access and awareness, can unintentionally reinforce limitation instead of liberation. You see, our brains look for patterns and meanings in things we see. And oftentimes, just seeing someone who looks different can trigger something we call othering in our minds. It's not always conscious. It can be primal, a survival instinct tied to implicit bias. But that's why we have to retrain our senses and our systems. We have to learn to see through the lens of what our colleagues call ability first. This is the dynamic international symbol of access, a forward-leaning wheelchair in motion, a symbol that asserts the ability of the individual, not the label of disability. It's a small design change with a powerful message: movement, agency, participation. And much like the practice of gratitude can train our brains to see positive in our day, an ability-first mindset trains us to see possibility, not pity, potential, and not pathology. It's how we evolve our consciousness, learning to celebrate ability in spite of limitation, to see pride where others once saw stigma. The disability pride flag teaches us that disability is not a defect to hide, but a dimension of diversity to honor. Each color represents strength, interdependence, and the vast spectrum of human experience. It's a flag of movement, not mourning, a banner that waves for every person whose resilience redefines what's possible. And not all disabilities are visible. The sunflower. It's become an international symbol for hidden disabilities, conditions that aren't immediately apparent, such as autism or ADHD, chronic pain, hearing loss, mental health conditions, or autoimmune disorders. When someone wears a sunflower pin or badge, it's a quiet signal that they may need extra time, understanding, or support. Not sympathy, but awareness. It reminds us that inclusion begins with recognition, that empathy must extend beyond what the eye can see. And in airports, hospitals, and classrooms across the globe, the sunflower is becoming a shared language of compassion, a way for invisible challenges to be seen and heard and honored. We need to be aware of these symbols that promote identity, symbols of strength and resilience and pride, because we've come a long way in our work, my friends. Some of you have been around a long time, and like me, and we've been doing this work a long time, some of us even longer. And despite injustices and setbacks, inclusion is on the rise. In Kenya, inclusion is being reframed as a civil right, not a special program. In India, the National Education Policy 2020 builds UDL, or Universal Design for Learning, right into the classroom. In Ghana, teachers partner with families to design community-based supports using their local language. In Brazil, Escola Accessible funds ramps, restrooms, playground upgrades, inclusion all through infrastructure. And in the US, we're fortunate to have the IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, a civil rights law ensuring access and equity. And next month marks 50 years of this law protecting the right of every child to learn, to belong, and to dream. So from Mumbai to Mombasa, from San Francisco to Stockholm, inclusion may sound different in every language, but the rhythm is the same. Ability first. And as Rotary World Disability Advocacy reminds us, inclusion isn't charity, it's justice, it's humanity. And if inclusion is a right, then voice is the instrument that carries it. This sticker, it's called a bumper sticker in the States. I've had a bumper sticker in my office for years that says simply, listen to children. And when I began my career several years ago as a special education teacher, serving students with the most extensive needs, I worked with students who were nonverbal, medically fragile, and profoundly unique. And they spoke, just not always in words. They spoke with their eyes, they spoke with their laughter, their rhythm, their energy. Our job as educators is to learn their language, to hear these beautiful voices singing these songs. And I know that if you're on the call with us today, you're someone who values the voice of the youth you work with. Youth voice is more than just a talking point. It's an essential ingredient to humanity's success in this mission toward global inclusion. The student voice continuum shows how adult mindsets and systems can shift from treating students as passive recipients of decisions toward empowering them as co-leaders in shaping school culture, policies, even financial ones, and of course, solutions. On one end of the continuum, students are merely informed, and this reproduces inequities. But as we move across the spectrum, consulting, involving, collaborating, we reach the ideal shared ownership. This is where students, especially underrepresented youth, are not just heard, but they lead. The message in this continuum is clear. We cannot unlock transformative solutions without our youth. And today we see that same voice rising around the world. In Finland, students lead their own individual education programs, learning to advocate for themselves from an early age. In Chile, student councils co-author respect charters that hang in every classroom. In Jordan, parents form the Right to Play Coalition, advocating for accessible playgrounds across hundreds of schools. And when I work with my friends here, the Fulbright scholars at California State University, Chico, educators from Asia, Africa, Europe, the Americas, the Middle East, we see how inclusion transcends socio-political boundaries. As a classroom teacher, I used to educate my parents of my students on the basics of inclusion and the law. We called it Know Your Rights Under the Law. We'd give them the basics of the law so they could be empowered to advocate for their student. The 7 major tenets of the IDEA, or Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, stated FAPE, free and appropriate public education, is what your child is entitled to, designed for their unique needs and goals. Least restrictive environment. Your child should learn with their peers whenever possible, with supports provided. An IEP, an individual education program, a plan created with you to set goals, services, and measure their progress. Evaluation. Schools must use fair, culturally responsive assessments. Participation. You are an equal partner in all educational decisions. Safeguards. You and your child have legal rights, access to records, notice of changes, and options for dispute resolution. And transition. By age 16 and earlier in some states, IEPs must include post-school goals for college, career, or independence. But that's for parents to understand. How are our youth going to become empowered with this knowledge if we don't speak their language? We must rewrite the language to speak to them. And then we must be their guide on the side, not the sage on the stage, standing by them, supporting them, so they can learn how to voice and advocate for themselves. So here in the US, we have 5-year-olds, we call them kindergartners, and we translate this law to say, school is for you. Everyone gets to go to school and learn new things. Learn together. You can learn and play with friends even if you need extra help. Your learning plan. Grown-ups make a special plan to help you do your best. Fair testing. Teachers use games and questions to see what helps you learn. Family team. Your family helps your teachers know what you need. Your rights. You and your family can ask for help or answers anytime. And growing up, school helps you get ready for big kid life. We can also reference the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities with the following language: human rights, peace and security, and sustainable development for all can be enjoyed only if persons with disabilities in all their diversity are included in society on an equal basis with others. The organizations of the UN system reaffirm that the full and complete realization of the human rights of all persons with disabilities is an inalienable, integral part of our work. We did not come by UN charters and legislation like the IDEA overnight. It took blood, sweat, and tears, and resistance to oppressive forces, from grassroots movements to major geopolitical alliances. And the flavor, the sound of these movements are usually tasted in the food and heard in the music. And every movement for justice has a soundtrack, and inclusion too has its rhythm. In the United States, jazz gave us improvisation and freedom. Blues gave pain a melody. Punk rock gave the unheard a microphone. Outlaw country sang about dignity for the working class. But around the world, that same rhythm pulses in 1,000 dialects of sound. And I've been making my kids listen to these sounds this week. It's been so much fun. In West Africa, Afrobeat and highlife carry messages of protest and pride. In Latin America, samba, bossa nova, and nueva canción tell stories of liberation and cultural memory. Across the Caribbean, reggae, ska, calypso unite communities through resistance and joy. In India, Bollywood fusion, qawwali, and folk traditions amplify spiritual resilience and social hope. Across the Middle East, Rai and Dabke became dances of defiance and belonging. In Eastern Europe, Roma brass bands and Ukrainian folk musicians turned survival into harmony. In East Asia, K-pop, C-rock, and Indonesian dangdut are reshaping pop culture to celebrate identity and inclusion. And across the Pacific, indigenous chant, hula, and haka remind us that culture itself is inclusion, a way of saying we are proud and we are powerful. Each of these traditions reminds us that inclusion is not quiet, it's rhythmic, It's embodied. It's alive. And when we listen to the world's music, we're hearing the world's demand for belonging. In Nigeria, Fela Kuti fused Afrobeat, jazz, funk, Yoruba rhythms to sing against corruption. In South Africa, Miriam Makeba, Mama Africa, used folk and township jazz to fight apartheid. In Jamaica, Bob Marley's reggae became the language of liberation. In Spain and France, Manu Chao's Latin ska and world fusion celebrated migrant life. In Benin, Angelique Kidjo's Afropop and funk became global anthems for women's rights. In Ireland, U2's rock and gospel-infused anthems filled stadiums with empathy. In India, A.R. Rahman's classical meets electronic fusion carried messages of peace. And in Ukraine, Jamala's ethno-electronic ballad, 1944, became a song of survival. Each of these artists took a local struggle and made it universal. Art as inclusion, music as education, and sound as solidarity. When we teach, when we advocate, when we create, we are part of that same rhythm, and that's our rhythm of inclusion. When I was in graduate school at the University of Central Florida, UCF, I was fortunate to be part of a team that conducted research in a virtual reality simulator called Teach Live, a virtual classroom simulation where teachers could practice classroom management with digital students in real time. Teach Live is highly effective for rehearsing teaching scenarios. But as technology does, it has evolved. And now we have AI to do simulations for a fraction of the cost while reaching larger audiences. Today, with simulators like Relative AI, we're building the next evolution. AI simulations that let teachers rehearse real-world interactions, learning to listen to and speak with our students, practice conflict resolution, and deliver high-leverage instructional practices. Let me show you a brief clip of an AI project, a glimpse into how AI can be used not to replace educators, but to rehearse social interactions in low-stakes situations.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Maya, can you tell me a little bit about who's in charge at your school? Who runs your school?
The principal is in charge of the school.
That's right. Your principal is in charge of your school. What is their role or what is their job when they're in charge at your school?
I don't know.
Their job is to help the teachers be the best teachers they can be, right? So they are in charge of the teachers, just like how on your soccer team you have a coach and your coach is in charge of the players.
Yeah, the principal is in charge of the teachers.
That's right, Maya. The principal's in charge of the teachers. And who else have you seen working at your school?
I've seen the cafeteria workers.
Oh, excellent. Thank you for bringing up the cafeteria workers. So what do they do? What is their job?
They make and serve lunch.
That's right. It's important to eat a good, healthy lunch every day. So you've talked about two people who are really important at your school. Thank you for sharing these roles, Maya. Do you know anyone else who works at your school?
I know the teachers.
They are probably the most important. Everybody works together and your teachers are the ones who teach you and make you a good student, right?
Yeah, They help us learn.
Technology becomes inclusive only when it amplifies empathy, not efficiency. When technology levels the playing field, that's what we're going for. Let me tell you a quick story about how this technology here is leveling the playing field for inclusion. We recently ran a study in a professional degree program where women have historically entered the workforce with lower starting salaries. And the results from this study were transformative. In this AI-driven negotiation, 8 of the top 10 performers were women. And even more inspiring, the highest performing demographic groups were women from racial and ethnic minorities and non-resident international students. This challenges long-standing inequities and early career outcomes and shows what's possible when technology is used to amplify confidence and skill and not bias. AI, when designed with empathy and equity at its core, can create practice spaces where every student gets a fair chance to rehearse success before it's high stakes. The study didn't just prove impact, it provided a roadmap for how institutions can embed equity-focused interventions into career preparation, ensuring that underrepresented students aren't just participating, but excelling in the conversations that shape our futures. And that's the future worth building. In India, Samagra Shiksha trains teachers in adaptive tech. In Mexico, Educación Inclusiva integrates bilingual and indigenous language supports. In Ukraine, UNESCO and UNICEF are rebuilding accessible schools amid conflict. In South Africa, Inclusive Education SA trains teachers using low-cost local tools. In Japan, the School for All movement connects inclusion to civic life. And in Scandinavia, Sweden right here, the normalization principle ensures people with disabilities live ordinary lives in ordinary settings. So we know this to be true, my friends, that from Cape Town to Copenhagen, from Guadalajara to Helsinki, the rhythm is the same. Belonging isn't something we add, it's something we build. And we must educate even the educators among us to become ambassadors for inclusion, because we can't teach what we haven't practiced. As we return to our pale blue dot once again, let's remember this. Keep uplifting the voices around you and keep making your music. Show up with presence, humility, and hope. Across so many countries, our instruments may differ, but the rhythm is the same. We are the conductors of inclusion's next symphony. Walt Whitman, the great American poet of democracy and humanity, believed that every voice was part of a single grand symphony. In his work, The Leaves of Grass, he wrote not just about America, but about the shared rhythm of all humankind, our laughter, our struggle, our song. He saw dignity in every person and beauty in every difference. His words remind us that inclusion isn't new. It's an ancient rhythm of belonging that poets and prophets and teachers have been singing for centuries. And he wrote that the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. That the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. So I ask you, my friends, what will your verse be? What will your rhythm add to the song of global inclusion? Because whether you teach in a rural village, a city school, or a refugee camp, your rhythm matters. Each act of listening, each moment of encouragement, each gesture of dignity becomes part of a global symphony of hope. We are the drummers, we are the dreamers, we are the dancers on this pale blue dot. And together, our rhythm will outlast the noise. Thank you, my friends, for keeping the rhythm alive.
Audio now unmuted alert. Zoom finder window. Video now started alert.
Wow, Aaron, that was amazing. I wish I was back at college and particularly studying under you. I would have loved a teacher like you at college and at school for that matter. Awesome. Awesome. There's so many takeaways from what you said. As a blind person, I had to smile. I got it when you mentioned the change in the image of the disability, the classic disability sign, which is the wheelchair, changing to a forward-leaning wheelchair user. I love that. That was such a cool image, and you got it. The way that you made me see it, I think, is so important. And something I want to say in reaction and reflection to your wonderful keynote, thank you. Something particular that worries me in this particular instance is I come from South Africa. Thank you for mentioning South Africa twice, and specifically Cape Town. And what we've learned of after 400 years of subjugation of the majority of the population was the tragedy in what we missed out on by excluding so many people from basic human rights, fundamental education opportunities, etc. And I'm always, when I teach this stuff, I always draw on these parallels of the importance of the parallels such as race and gender and disability inclusion struggle. And what really saddens me is how many extraordinary individuals have lost out by not having the opportunity of inclusion at an educational level. Before I introduce you to our next moderator, I want to leave you with the words of the white paper. And a white paper is a prelim to possible legislation in any country. And in 2000, we had a white paper on inclusive education. And the opening lines read, "It is regrettable that 65% of children with disabilities in South Africa simply fall through the cracks of the education system." What an indictment is that? And so I applaud you, Aaron. Thank you very much for your energy and your wonderful passion. And as I said, I wish I had had a lecturer like you at college and at school. So thank you very much.